Welcome to Custom Homebuilders Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software designed specifically for the professional home builder. Hello, this is Carol King, the developer of Custom Homebuilders Solutions, also known as CHS. In this video, we are going to talk about setting up jobs, or some people might call them projects, your various houses that you're building, homes you're building, or maybe it's a remodeling job, but we call them jobs in CHS. And you can do this pretty early on after you get started with CHS, because you don't have to necessarily have gotten all of your accounting done or all your cost codes set up in order to set up a job. So it's something you could pretty early on play with. Now, I do suggest when you get CHS, you use the CHS setup steps and do some of these things first. It's maybe a good idea before you're setting up jobs, but you actually could sort of jump to the setup jobs. These are basic setup steps for when you get started with CHS. But in this case, what we're going to talk about in this video is setting up jobs and the job setup window, and then we'll have some a couple of videos following about using the jobs list. So I'm going to expand this where it says jobs, and I'll be clicking the jobs list and setup, but I'd also like you to notice that in the index, if I start typing jobs, I'll see jobs list and setup, and it would take me to the same place if I clicked on that. But we'll go ahead and just click on it over here in the expanding menu. Now, the first thing that you'll notice, we already have a bunch of jobs set up here, is that there is a job code attached to each one of these jobs, and that we've made these pretty intuitive to us by making them alpha. I do not suggest that you set up a bunch of job codes that are just a bunch of numbers, because these job codes, say when you're entering a bill, or you're starting a new budget, or you're doing a purchase order, you'll have a field that's asking you for the job that you can just start typing so it will move to that job. So like we have 3 jobs here that start with Vista B, 3811, 3812. That has to do with the job address. Maybe you use the job address more if you're doing a spec and don't have a buyer name. This builder also has some jobs set up where he actually just used the buyer name. Some buyer names here. Then he has some rental properties actually, and he started those with a PM for property management and then something about the street they were located on, I think. So you want those to be intuitive so that you can remember those. And we will get back to talking about all of these other things on the job setup list. I will mention real fast, you can just click active to see which ones are active, or inactive to see which ones are inactive. And then you can set up some what-if jobs that you're just going to play with to do budgets, or make templates of budgets that you're going to copy to other jobs. So there's a few things that you might label as what-if. But we'll go ahead and do the show all and refresh. So let's go ahead and start talking about how you add a new job. When you click that button, what it's going to ask for is that job code, and you can see over here all the job codes that are already set up in case you just kind of want to look. Let's just decide that we're setting up, just because, a new job that's also on that Vista View street, because maybe we're doing several of them there for whatever reason. Let's just do 3814. So that would be the address, 3814 Vista View. And then you click the button to add the new job. I'm actually going to not fill all of this in. I'm going to open one in a second that's already filled in for another job so that we don't take a long time just watching me type things. But you, of course, would put the street number here just to go along with that one, and the street name, and then I think those were all in Alpine. I can't remember the zip, but so that's pretty basic right there. So let's just go ahead and save that since we made changes. Notice that if I click to close, it's going to say I must first save my changes, or click the reset button in case I don't want those changes to be saved. So I'll save that, and I'll close that. So that gives you the basic idea of setting the job code. And then if you scroll down here, you'll see that we have Vista 3814 in our list, and we can click the pencil edit icon to go ahead and edit it some more if we just had gone away from it for a little bit. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and open this one for Vista 3811, just because it has a lot of things filled in for us, and that it's easier to discuss it that way. But it's the same window, exact same window that you'll get when you're setting up and entering all the new things. So first of all, you'll notice that the job code is frozen. And up here, there's a button that says job code ? So if you click that, it's going to tell you to change the job code, find the job on the jobs list, and use the code hyperlink in the change column on the row for the job. We will have another video all about changing the job code, but that back here on that jobs list, there's change and code, and that's what that's referring to. It needs to be done that way because of all sorts of records that might be connected to that job code will be handled by using that particular feature. Now you saw where I was showing all jobs that were active or inactive. If you set this to inactive, then you could get reports of just, when it's giving you, the owner review board will show you all active jobs or ones that aren't closed and are marked as active. It won't show you ones that are marked as inactive. So that's a simple yes, no. And I mentioned the what if. If I said this was what if, a what if job, in other words, I'm just only going to go do a budget for it, that I'm wanting to copy to other jobs, etc. I might set this as a what if, and by doing that, it won't be in any drop downs for when you're entering bills or going to make actual purchase orders. In other words, it's not really a real job, but you might want to use this for the feature of the fact that when you start new job budgets or estimates, you can copy an estimate and bring in a lot of things. And please watch the job budget videos about that. This next field that is called custom, that on this particular job, we called it custom. But you could select a type like custom, model, spec, or remodel from the drop-down list, and if it's not in the drop-down list, you can just type in a new one, and next time you open this window, it will be in the drop-down list. You can do various reports that group by type, like ones that are open or where they're at and their sales price, etc. So that's a good reason, or you can search for jobs that are certain types of jobs. So it can be handy produce reports based on that type, and you can just type a new one in and it'll be set up. In the department video, etc., I think we showed assigning a department to a job, and that's because we can get little financial statements just for a department and also separate ones for just one job. But if we do a financial statement for a department, like we set up some departments for custom homes, for overhead, property management, if this job happened to be a rental property. And that way you could go get a little financial statement that includes everything for that job. So when you enter a bill or any accounting record and you select this job code, CHS will go look for what department is attached to that job code. And we'll drop that in, like entering a deposit, you select the job and the department will drop in. Also, that kind of thing, or entering a bill and the department will drop in, so that all the accounting records will get the right department so that they can be on good financial statements. So that's called a default. It's the default that will drop in when you're entering bills. Now this field here, it's called Job Cost GL. And it's asking you, let's do the question mark button and just take a moment to read this. It's not required, you could leave a zero there. But to have a specific GL account from your chart of accounts, drop in when entering job cost payables bills for this job, select it here. This will override a GL default account selected for the vendor used. If there's a zero here, and maybe you've set up a vendor for Joe the plumber and you've given him a default GL account for most of his bills to go to, and there's a zero here, that GL account will drop in. It might very likely be the same account number there, but the reason for selecting one that has to do the job, also this is a default, so when you do a bill, it's saying this is a default and it could be changed when you're entering a bill. If the default GL assigned to a vendor should be used when entering bills for this job, leave a 0 in this field. But you probably want to put something in. For example, if a job is a remodeling job or a property management job, and you want job costs to be posted directly to a cost of sales account and not a work in progress account, which is actually what this 1430 is for this job, not a work in progress account like some other jobs, select the appropriate cost of sales GL account for here. Or if you need to use a different work in progress account for specs and for customs or residential and commercial, select the appropriate WIP account here, work in progress account. Please discuss this with your accountant about where your accountant would like various different types of jobs where they would like their job costs to be posted on your accounting chart of accounts. And it's important that you know this does not mean you should clutter up your chart of accounts with a GL account for each job. CHS will track how much is in each account on your chart of accounts for each job and will produce general ledgers and trial balances that will subtotal each GL account by job. Separate trial balances and income statements can be produced for each job, and CHS can also track cash by job without having separate cash accounts for each job. Note that only users with a higher permission level will be able to select the GL account here. Otherwise, it will be disabled. So that's the information about that. It's a very handy feature to go ahead so that when you're entering bills for a certain job, that GL account drops in on your chart of accounts as a default when you select the job, and you don't have to try to remember where I'm putting job costs for this job. These fields are very straightforward. The street number, the street name, the city, the state, and the zip code for the property. Now, subdivisions are kind of handy in that you can group jobs into different subdivisions. So you can select one from the drop-down list of subdivisions that maybe you've already set up. So you'll see a list of subdivisions here. Or you can add a new subdivision to the list by clicking this, Subdivisions, Add New Subdivision, and I don't know what we might call one. Golf Resort Bueno. No. Anyway. I don't know. Maybe we referred to some. I couldn't think of anything while I was talking, but you'll see it's now in the list. And if you need to change that title, you can click the pencil edit icon and then change it and submit it. So that's a subdivision. And now if I do the drop down here, you'll see that Golf Resort select from on a new job. But we're leaving Peaceful Valley here. Now I think all builders will know what lot, block, and section means, and how to do a legal description usually of the thing. This legal description, lot, block, and section, they print on purchase orders, especially the legal description, or on some other reports in CHS. And this tax alert in payables, it just means that if you're building something in another complete other area from your normal sales tax area, and you want to get alerted when you're entering bills that there should be a different sales tax rate on the bill that they give you for the fact that this project is in another jurisdiction of some kind. And by check marking that, that's all you're doing is saying, when I'm entering bills, I want to be alerted that this particular job is in a different sales tax jurisdiction. Now, these fields here, I wanted to show you about something about subdivisions before we get too far away from that. Notice that right here on the line is a little briefcase, and what that is it's going to open Job Reports Central for that job. So the selections on this window that's going to open will only be for reports, not for going to do work, but for reports. And notice that we have cost variance reports, and when I expand that, you're going to see that there's some subdivision variance reports. There's one that's with detail, and you'll see that first it's showing the cost codes, the cost groups that we have set up, and then cost codes all for this particular job in that subdivision. All of our Vista views are in the same subdivision. And it's showing actually the original budget, change order budget, total budget, actual cost, actual over budget for everything, and then we'll give you subtotals for each of those cost groups for all jobs in that subdivision. That's the detail. And if you do a subdivision variance summary, this one is different in that you'll see that group without all the detail of the individual cost codes, but one line for each job that's in that subdivision under there, and a total of those that way. So I just wanted to show you that that's one place that subdivisions are used. Plus subdivision will be print, whatever subdivision you selected will print on purchase orders that you're doing. Let's go back to that job that I already have filled in and continue onwards. So the floor plan permit number are probably pretty handy, and when you print some lists of jobs, you might see the floor plan and the permit number on there. You can do some searching of your list for certain floor plan jobs, etc. And we're going to talk about this manager ID, manager name, builder ID, builder name, estimator ID, and estimator name in a video that's going to be following this video. I don't want this particular video to be too long, but essentially you can select the builder that's on the job. This will also pertain to who has permissions to work on the job. This might be the construction superintendent, the overall construction manager name, somebody who's estimating or doing purchase orders, or just another field. And you'll be selecting from users that you have set up in CHS to assign them to this job basically. These fields are dimmed because they're not filled in until you select a builder ID, and when you select the builder ID, they'll be filled in. These phone numbers for the builder who's assigned or project manager to the job will print, that builder email and builder phone will print on POs and some other things that you're using. So you need to select the builder ID for those to fill in. Now I'm also going to have another video following this that just has to do with job specs and measurements and how those are used and how you set those up and how those are used to help make a new budget, that type of thing. So that will be following this. That's about using specs and measures. Now up here you see contract type not enabled, see note. Note, contract type can only be selected by using the set price link on the job budget worksheet. So we don't make this active here because you're actually telling it on the job budget worksheet whether it's a fixed or a cost plus markup or a cost plus fee, or basically also if that's unknown and you're not using those. And about the price, you'll see there's a question mark button up here about the price. And you can go ahead and read that. I won't just read that out loud. You could pause the video. But the price is also set over there after you've been working on the budget, of course, before you're really setting the price. So you don't just put the price here on this window. These job status and dates, first of all, when you start one that's a spec or whatever, you might put it in inventory. You can't change these. It's either inventory sold or closed. So once it's closed, you'll be changing that to closed. And there's tools in CHS to post a job closing for your accounting, which then will mark this as job closing posted, not unposted. And you'll start getting alerts when you're trying to enter bills still for that job after it's all closed, if this says that the job closing has been posted, and there'll be alerts maybe suggesting that you post any job costs that come in after the fact straight to cost of sales instead of work in progress. These should be pretty clear: start date, sold date to close date, things that you can fill in about it, and then the closed date, and then a warranty expire date. It's probably a year after that closed date. There's various things that will react to these dates and sort things by dates throughout the program. You can also do a few other dates. And if you watch things about weekly status reports, there is a help video about this. There's a few other dates that the weekly status report can react to for this job. So you can go ahead and set up about 3 more dates and call them what you like. And you can type in for the first 3 dates, not the completed, but you can put a date in for the completed. And you need to watch the help video about all of this weekly status report stuff too that could happen. It's important, those dates for the report that's printed for the weekly status of a job. Now, I'm going to actually do a whole other video also about setting up a new buyer, because now there's a buyer for this job and I want to attach a buyer to this job. But there are videos, when you click that, there's videos about setting up payers and how you do that. So if you set up an ID, you can go to re-edit that payer, and you'll see there's a help videos about setting up payers. You need to set those up so that you can select them here, so you can set them up directly on the fly. The draw retention percent has to do with if you're producing draw requests in CHS and you need it to withhold 10%. For some reason, they're going to withhold 10% from you when you do draws. You will put the percent in here. There'll be more information about that in the draw request videos. The buyer tax percent, some states require that you do sales tax somehow. Texas doesn't, so I'm not as familiar with it. But if you put a buyer tax percent in here and start a new budget, you'll see that there's a column over there for the buyer sales tax percent, and that will cause it to fill in. There's a whole other video about setting up the buyer for online access. So I think maybe I don't need to come back and do a video that's just about putting the buyer in this field on the job setup window, but there will be a video about setting up buyer online access. Now there's some other links right here. Click this to enter directions to site and job notes. We don't have space all over the place to have this also on the screen, but you can do a bunch of directions that will print on purchase orders, telling somebody how to get there, etc. And then you can just type whatever notes you want to yourself about the job right there. This is if you want to enter the lender and the title company to have information about them. Those are all very straightforward fields that I think you can figure out how to fill in. The interim lender, lender contact, the title company name, and some of their phone numbers. So that's one of the other links on here. And then this is the same link, just so you don't overlook it. Basically, so you don't go zooming by it right here. So I think that's all I need to say right now about setting up a job, so this video doesn't get too long. Like I said, we're going to have a very next video about add or edit priority and measure specs and the top 6 measures that you'd like to print on budgets. And so stay tuned, take a break now, and thank you for watching this video.